To scale your business, maybe you're just burnt out. If your business needs you to survive, you don't own a business. You simply own a very stressful job. But don't worry, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Business Owner's Freedom Formula Show with your host, Paul Maskill.
Hey, what's up, fellow business owners? Thanks so much for coming to hang out today. This is episode 240 of the show. I am Paul Maskill, and I am here to help you crush chaos in your business so you can uncover the income and the freedom that you always knew was possible. In today's episode, I had the pleasure to interview Todd Palmer. Todd is a business guru making things happen. And we really dive into a lot of things that I think will be very applicable to any business owner out there, because we talk about a lot of different things when it comes to growing a company, restarting, going through problems, overcoming those problems, and hiring the right people to build a team that can succeed and really thrive with or without you. So some of the things that we really dig into, the company that he was running has made the Inc. 5000 six times. Yes, six times. I believe it was 6 times in 7 years. And one time in his company, he actually fired the entire company and took everything back and rebuilt it from scratch the right way with the right systems and processes. And then lastly, we dive into really building out that team. So one of the things that I talk a lot about and we dive into is hiring for personality and training for the job. So that way you can really build a strong culture in your team. So if any of those sound like you, definitely tune in. And one last thing before we jump into our interview today with Todd, just a quick announcement. If you are a business owner who feels a little stuck or more stuck, then you are in luck. Head on over to paulmaskill.com/pivot. to grab my free guide, How to Pivot When You've Plateaued, these 6 mistakes that you must avoid before you break through and take it to the next level. These were the mistakes that I made, and I've seen way too many other business owners make when we've tasted success, but then we've plateaued because we don't really know what our next move should be. So maybe your business has plateaued in the last couple of years and it's starting to feel like a job, or maybe you keep telling yourself and telling everybody else that you just can't find good help. And when you do hire people, they don't work out. Or you feel like you're all alone and you're trying to figure it out all by yourself and you just don't know what to do next. So if any of those sound familiar, then there is no need to worry. I was there once before and now I'm here to help be your guide to help you get to where you really want to go. Simply head on over to paulmaskill.com/pivot. But now into the main attraction of the day, my interview with Todd Palmer. Hey, what's up, business owner? Thanks so much for tuning in to episode 240 of the Business Owner's Freedom Formula Show. Today, we have with us Todd Palmer. Todd is the collaborative business advisor and CEO of Extraordinary Advisors. Simply put, Extraordinary Advisors helps business leaders get shit done. As the CEO of a 6-time Inc. 5000 company, Todd knows that business success begins and ends with people. People make all the business decisions regarding strategy, execution, cash, and staff. Todd isn't happy until his clients trust themselves as leaders and their decisions. He won't rest until teams trust the leaders and each other. He knows they've nailed it when CEOs and their leadership teams take action toward high-level achievement, resulting in clients that trust the company. So that is Todd Palmer. Todd, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks. Hey, thanks for having me on. How you been?
Doing well. Can't complain. Always good to talk to a fellow Michigander that loves baseball, probably a diehard Tiger fan. Still waiting since 1984 to win the championship, but we are here to talk about business. So the first question I ask everybody is, what is your ideal view of ultimate freedom?
You know, for me, the view of ultimate freedom is, I'll kind of paraphrase something I heard from Tony Robbins years ago. It's doing what I want, when I want, as often as I want to do it, and whom I want to do it with. And the great thing about it is, if you really dissect all that, if you think about it from a holistic perspective, it doesn't cost a lot of money to live a life of freedom.
That is so true. I love really that last part of it too. It doesn't cost a lot of money to be able to do that. Really just takes the mental ability and to break some barriers and some mindset issues to be able to do all those things. So just like most of my interviews, I want to dive into 2 things. 1, how your journey can inspire our listeners, and then 2, how your expertise can help our listeners. So give our listeners, the quick rundown of how did your entrepreneurial journey start in the first place?
Well, it's funny you ask that. So actually my entrepreneurial journey started off when I was about, 4th or 5th grade. I grew up in a very small town in mid-Michigan. I had, 42 kids in my graduating class. And, in the early 80s, we didn't have cable. We thankfully we had electricity and indoor plumbing, but we didn't have a whole lot. And we had one grocery store in town, and my mom would drive me to school, and I would stop at that grocery store, and I'd spend $5 to buy a bunch of candy. Then I would go to school and flip that candy for 15 to 20 bucks. And that's really where the journey started. And then I started my first company in 1997 to make a go of it full time.
Awesome. Well, kudos to your mom for letting you do that and taking the time to let you go spend $5 to make 20 in school. So that is a really good. I know everybody kind of says they have their own little thing that they sold this and that, but like you actually legit bought inventory and then sold inventory and did it again. And again.
And the man came down on me. Principal brought me down to the office one day and told me how wrong it was. And I said, well, I'm providing, as a little kid, I'm like, well, I have classmates that want the stuff. They can't buy. It's not illegal. It's not like I'm selling, drugs. I mean, I was just befuddled that the man was keeping me down.
Well, I'm glad you broke free from that man and did your own thing, started your first business. So let's really dive into that now, really leveraging your expertise, what you've done with your own businesses, and now you help other people do that. One of the things that stood out in the intro is you made the Inc. 5000 list 6 times. How in the heck? First, give our listeners a quick 30-second rundown of what that means, what the Inc. 5000 is. And then
Sure.
2, how did you actually make that happen 6 times?
Well, so to be on the Inc. 5000, it's all based on revenue growth year over year over a 3-year period. So for about a 10-year window, we were doing really, really well. We were growing the business, and we made it 6 out of 7 years. So our run was really, really strong. And the great thing about it is I learned an awful lot about culture and people and the differentiation and the people I needed to support my vision and my dream. Because back, so I made the first time that we made the list was 2007. But going back to 2004 to 2006, those were really, really dark years. And they always say that the greatest success is, it's always darkest right before the dawn, right? So 2006, we were in bad shape. The company and me personally were $600,000 in debt. We were 60 days away from running out of cash. We had a dysfunctional, toxic company culture. So I made the very difficult decision to spend money that I didn't have. I actually hired my first coach, paid him on a credit card that my staff didn't know I had. And we helped dig out of that issue. And the biggest pivot we realized was that as the entrepreneur, I had to get over my imposter syndrome. And as the leader, I had to lean into the uncomfortable conversations with people. And those uncomfortable conversations resulted in me, in September of 2006, firing my entire company and starting over.
Wow. So you literally got rid of everybody. How many people were there? And like, what did you do? Like the next day it was just you and
the next day
wear all the hats?
The next day literally it was just me. There was about 10 people, and it would be ironic because the client would call in looking to talk to one of the employees, and they were either always on an appointment or they were always out of the office, or they were at lunch or sick kid or whatever. They couldn't be in the office. So here, let me as the owner help you out to the very best of my ability. So I really had to get back into the weeds very quickly because I had removed myself essentially from the business the year prior, and I was detached. I wasn't watching the proper metrics. I wasn't watching what needed to be done. And now I was really finding out from the customers what they wanted. I was changing the way we were hiring people. Prior to that, I owned a recruiting company. And, Kelly Services World Headquarters is right here in Michigan. So we would hire people who worked at Kelly and other companies. And we found that just didn't fit for us. So we came up with a process to hire for DNA, not for resume, because we were getting a lot of other companies' cast-offs and retreads. Just because they had experience didn't mean they had good experience. So I learned a lot from a lot of painful things. And I think, the silver lining in all that is we did make the Inc. 5000 6 of the next 7 years. And I'm really proud to tell people that we paid off all $600,000 in debt in full to the banks and everybody else we owed the money to. So it was a turnaround story that was very painful in the moment, but now I think hopefully provides a little bit of context to what the entrepreneurial journey can really be.
Wow, that's awesome. So you mentioned a bunch of things that I want to dig into. The first thing is you hired a coach, and that's really tough for a lot of business owners to do because most of the times we started our business and we did everything and we know everything. And then we get to the point where we need help, but we don't want to put a little dent in our ego saying we need somebody else to help me with this journey because it's kind of in our DNA to begin with of I can do everything and I'm Superman or I'm Superwoman. So what really brought you to that point saying, okay, I know I need to invest in somebody that can give me another perspective and guide me because they've been there and done that?
Well, the reality was, just like I think with anybody else who has to make tough decisions in life, I'd kind of hit my rock bottom. I mean, $600,000 in debt, it's not chump change. It's real money, and people want that money back, and the bank wanted their money back, and it got really dicey. And I realized that, like you said, a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we had kind of wanted to do one of two things. We, as entrepreneurs, we have a rugged individualistic side. We're the people who we climb mountains, we jump out of planes without parachutes, thinking somehow magically we're going to land on the ground safely and without injury. And, for me, I had a lot I wanted to prove, not only to the world, but to myself. And I became very self-reliant, which at some points in my life served me incredibly well. But at this point, being self-reliant in the hole I was in the hole the company was in, what wasn't serving me well. And that's really the rock bottom part I hit. I reached out for help, found somebody who was one of the world's leading experts in the staffing space, was very open and honest, and went hat in hand saying, I will somehow pay you. I can't pay you what you're asking me for, and I can't pay you up front, but here's what I can do. And that level of honesty, I think, was really, really impressed upon him, that I was serious about making change, because as an entrepreneur, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't change the bottleneck in the bottle. And if you look at any bottle, the bottleneck's at the top.
Well said. Never thought about it that way. And that is so true with business. And then kind of after that, you said, really you had to get used to making uncomfortable, those difficult decisions as business owners that we don't really ever want to do, whether it's firing people or doing these things that, since we are human and we have a heart, we know it kind of sucks for somebody else. So a lot of times I've been with way too many business owners who, I need to get rid of that person, but I'm not going to, it's just not the right time. And there never really is a good time. So how did you get over that mental hurdle of, this is what I need to do because this is what's going to propel the business forward?
Well, it's interesting you asked the question, because there was a lot of survivor guilt, essentially. So I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to kick everybody off the island. I'm going to be the last one standing. There's a phrase that they're heavy as the head that wears the crown. When you're the king entrepreneur, you're the buck stops here. In society, in the movies, on Shark Tank, you look like, wow, everybody wants to be in that enviable position. But the reality is there's a lot of responsibility. And the decisions I did make in 2006 did impact other people. It impacted people's families. It impacted their sense of stability and comfort. But the reality was, I was going to run out of money. So if they don't go today, they're going to go. The reality was they weren't doing the job as designed. The reality was the management team I had in place was not executing. So there is a certain level of shared responsibility when those things come into play. And I tell my clients this now when I work with them through my new consulting practice, Extraordinary Advisors, because I just had a guy go through this week. He was like, I got to fire this guy, and I'm going to do it in the next 3 to 6 months. Why can't you do it today? And I had to reframe his thoughts around it, because oftentimes the employee knows they're not executing. The employee knows it's the wrong job for them, but they have pride and ego, just like the owner. We have pride and ego, and they're not going to give in, and they're not going to change, and he's going to ride it. He needs me. She needs me. The reality is, often when you fire someone, you're freeing them up to go do what they should be doing somewhere else on someone else's payroll. Even if you're freeing someone up to go collect unemployment because they're just not of the mindset to do any work right now, that happens too. But there's certainly a technique that I teach people on how to fire with caring, compassion, and kindness. But the reality is, you are freeing them up to do something, because as soon as you decide somebody's going to be terminated, when you're the owner, you're the entrepreneur, they're a dead man walking, and you need to free them up to go do what they should be doing, which is not working for you.
That is so true. And I think it's having that ability to have that perspective of, yes, short term, this sucks probably for both people, but then it's freeing them up to really go get opportunities that are a better fit for them. They can probably make more money. They'll be happier. And then a year or two later, they'll probably come back and say, hey, thank you so much for doing that, because I didn't have the heart to quit, even though I knew I wasn't the right fit for you. So really good.
Change is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable for both parties.
It is so true, because it's even if it's 1% of unknown, we don't like that unknown, because what we have right here is 100% known. So I think it's just making that change of, whoa. And then once you do it, it's like, well, that wasn't that bad. And I feel like 1,000 pounds lighter. So then we go hire new people. And you made a statement, hire for DNA, not resume. Give our listeners a little insight into what that is and why it's so important, at least in your opinion, to do it that way.
Sure. I was actually, I was just working with one of my clients on the same thing. And it was really, especially he needed to hire some salespeople. And he goes, I just can't find anybody who's going to sell the way I want them to. And, most salespeople I run into are rule breakers, and they want to do their own thing and all these different things. And he's in a very unique industry where he doesn't need someone who's going to walk in with a legacy of experience or a book of business. So I shared with him what we did. And what I did was I started going to mid-tier to higher end restaurants during the lunch or the dinner hour. And I would try, I'd talk to the maitre d' or to the hostess, her host, and say, hey, I really, it's a special night. And it always wasn't a special night. It's a special night. And I really like your best person. And I would inevitably get sat in the area with the person who's providing the best service and striking up a conversation with them. You learn how they talk. You can see how they critically think. You can see how they upsell you. You can see how they pivot things. You can, through the course of a meal, you can learn a lot about your staff. So we found that pulling people out of that space was just huge. So especially in the evening hours, if you get somebody, like, for example, one of my best recruiters, Jeremy, was he worked for, of all places, the Olive Garden. And he was killing it there. He was a teacher during the day, and he worked at Olive Garden at night. Eventually ended up leaving teaching to go work at the Olive Garden because he made more money and less parental hassle. Loved the kids, couldn't stand the parents. Long story. So he says to me when I'm talking to him, he's like, yeah, I'm probably going to have to switch careers because I'm getting married and I'm starting a family. And I don't want to work nights. Have you thought about being a recruiter? We work during the day. And you can probably make even more money. And with your personality and with our training program, we can get you on the right path. And he's been with me now, going on 8 years. So it does work. We had a young lady who worked with us for over a decade who came from the medical space. And you think, well, how could you, be a reception person and become a six-figure recruiter? She had the really uniquely challenging job of calling. She worked for a physician whose main specialty was diagnosing people with certain types of cancer. So she would inevitably get the results and have to call the family to schedule their consult to discuss treatment options. And she was the person who would call you up and say, hi, George. Hi, Mary. This is so-and-so. And unfortunately, your results have come in and you've been diagnosed with stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And then people always had a reaction. I mean, nobody wants to get that call. Well, you know what? Nobody wants to make that call either. So she said during the interview, because if I can call people and give them bad news, I'd rather be calling people, giving them good news that they've got a better job. And she killed it. So the point of it is transferable skill sets for some of these positions are key. Even transferable skill sets for people who do IT or accounting are key. As long as a person doesn't have to have a licensure, such as a nurse or a physician, there's a lot of hiring options that a lot of employers simply miss.
That really, even just some actionable, like literally go to nicer restaurants. And I say that all the time, like when you have a really good waiter or waitress, and like I can specifically remember last time we went to this place called Bar Taco, and it's like kind of an up and coming national, I don't know if it's a franchise or a chain or what, but this lady, she was like on it. I was like, how much do they pay you to work here? Because you could go make a lot of money somewhere else. And then the manager came by and I was like, you better hold on to her because she is going to do things. And it was just that personality, like how she just handled the whole relationship and the flow.
Right.
Like you said, pivoting, right. Oh, you don't really like avocado? Well, we can do that. Like she actually cared, but she sold. Like I remember we ordered corn and the other people didn't corn. Like, you're going to be really jealous and you're going to feel like you missed out on something when you see what they're about to eat. So then the other people are like, yeah, we'll get the corn too. So it's a really good idea, and it's something that probably 99% of business owners don't do when they're looking for that person.
And it's really, you don't have to be overt about it. I used to just simply leave my business card down the back. Hey, if you're interested in a career change, please give me a call. Here's my cell phone number. So you don't have to be a super hard salesperson. But if you feel you got a great company, you've got something to offer someone in today's full employment space, you've got to take people from somewhere.
That is true. So with all these things that you're doing with business owners and with individuals, obviously you have some pillars that you like to focus on when it comes to building a successful business. And with your experience, obviously getting rid of everybody, starting from scratch, building it back up, what are some of the most important things that all the listeners out there that own businesses that they need to do to focus on to be a successful business?
So the first thing, and I tell this to everybody I interview to be a potential client of mine, is I ask them a lot of mindset questions. Where are they and where do they want to go, and are they coachable? When I say mindset, do you see the world with scarcity or do you see the world with abundance? Well, I had a guy say to me, I really think we can do more. I just don't know how. And I really, and he went through all the different things and what he wanted to accomplish. And he concluded, and where he closed me was, he's like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I know that, and I know that I have to shift and change if I want to live the life I want to live. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be painful, but I like your style that my style is very, very collaborative. I walk the journey with the entrepreneur. So mindset for me, first and foremost, is key. And then the mindset pivots into the 4 pieces of the business. What is your mindset around cash? What is a mindset around strategy? And once you've executed a strategy, go to the execution phase. What is your mindset around failing? Because nobody, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they don't get it right the first time. Nobody does. How do you pivot off of that? What are you willing to learn? What are you willing to try? Are you willing to create a culture where failing forward is actually championed versus criticized? And then how do you work with your people? What is your mindset around them? Are they servants to the king or the queen, or are you guys a collaborative business unit? Are you doing more that sergeant in arms, and are you going to walk the path with your team? And so there's a lot of different pieces around cash, strategy, execution, and people that come into play. I just told this guy the other day, I said, listen, you're very focused on reaching, he wants to be a $5 million company. I said, there's nothing wrong with being a $2 million company with 50% margins. So there's nothing wrong with that. But he was so wrapped up in and I said, let's focus on the margin, not the revenue, because you can squeeze a lot more out of that. And just by moving a couple of needles, and he's moved his margin, I think we talked the other day, 16 points in less than 6 weeks. It's huge. That's real money to the bottom line.
It is. And I think that's probably part of ego. I know I've been to conferences and everyone's like, oh, how much are you doing? Oh, we just hit our first $1 million year. Oh, we had our first $5 million year. But what they don't tell you is how much they made on the bottom line. And it's, if you're a grocery store and you have a 1% margin, you can sell a lot of stuff. You got to do a lot of work to make 1%, whereas you could do $2 million and make 50%. And it doesn't really matter. So I think that's really, really good actionable advice for people. With one of those pillars, you mentioned people, and I know in your intro, you're really focused on the people. People make all the business decisions. People build businesses. I know I try and work with my clients on this because they come in with the I mentality. It's like, I want you to do this, instead of the we mentality of it's our business and these people are going to build it with you, instead of me, I'm the king and everyone else is my servant. So what is your kind of advice, insight into getting people to understand, business owners to understand that they need this team of strong people and that they're going to build this business together, instead of me building the business with all these people just doing the work?
Right. Well, the challenge often is to reframe their mindset on what it's like to be, like you talked about the question to start the conversation. What does freedom look like? What does success look like to you? And I'll often spend an entire day just with the CEO and getting them anchored in what they say they want. And inevitably, we have a methodology where it eventually dawns on them that they can't do it alone. You just can't. And you need people. And then I'll do a lot of experience share of how I've worked with my staff and some of the dumb things I did and some of the successes we've had. And I often kind of close it out by saying, in 10 years, if you're managing your business from your favorite beach, with your favorite drink, from your phone, with your friends and family and the people you want to spend your time with, will this be a successful journey for you? And I've not ever had anybody say no. But then like you talk about reframing the thoughts around revenue. Only 4.3% of all businesses ever reach $1 million in revenue. But there's nothing wrong, again, with having a $1 million company if you can get there and having 50% margins. So it's really anchoring them in what they want. And oftentimes, I really also want to help them deal with their demons. And what I mean by that is a lot of entrepreneurs, my coach told me this, and I still use a coach. So I used a coach in 06, and now I use one of the world's leading neuroscientists to help me understand how my brain works and how the brain of my clients work. Because that's the big differentiator, is how we look at the world and how we process the data and how we deal with failure and success. And he said to me, he goes, most entrepreneurs start their first business often to prove something to someone else. Like, my mom and dad didn't love me. My older siblings didn't understand me. The pretty girl in 4th grade said I would never amount to anything, and now I'm going to prove her wrong. And all the stuff, and or they want to prove something to themselves. And I need to figure out what that is. What's your struggle when you're up at 3 a.m? Who are you fighting with? Are you fighting with the bank because the bank's unreasonable because you signed a letter and they want to get paid and you don't want to pay them, you're being passive aggressive? Or are you staying up at night because you have a key employee that you're struggling with or a key account you're struggling with? And how do we work through those? Because we can fix the cash, we can execute a strategy, we can work with the people, but if the mindset and the self-confidence, or often the lack of self-confidence is there, covered by bravado, covered by spit and polish, it is going to prevent that kind of success. Let's have a conversation about it. Because really, I always tell my clients this, I want to work for you as the owner, and I want to work with the employees. My job is I'm an advocate for the third party in the room, which is this business entity. And it's like a child. The business entity needs things from dad, the owner, and mom, the employee. So we're going to fight for the best interest of them. And once I take the individuality out of it, the rocket ship of success can be pretty fast.
That's a really good viewpoint. And just having that mindset of this third party, which is the business, we need to make the right decision for that. And a lot of times business owners kind of get jaded and they're doing either what's the easiest, what's the least amount of change, what's not going to cause them chaos today, even though there's a good upside tomorrow, but it doesn't do what's right for the business. So I think, like you said, painting that vision of 10 years from now, if this is what you want to do, then we got to start making these decisions now so we can get you where you want to go. So with that being said, we started today's show with your definition of ultimate freedom, kind of paraphrasing off what Tony Robbins said. How do you make sure you continue to achieve that? Because obviously there are a lot of things pulling us different directions, and it's really easy to, when we do love what we're doing, and I can hear the passion across the internet waves of how passionate you are with what you do. How do you make sure you don't let that take over and you still keep that freedom in place so you can do all the things that you want to do?
Well, I've given up on the thought process of work-life balance. So I've just completely, that doesn't exist for me anymore. It's really about work-life integration. So recently, what I've done, just kind of one small tip is I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to make my life as virtual as possible, as outsourced and optimized as possible, so that I'm doing the hours of work on the things that I love, which is working with my clients, working with my staff back at the recruiting company, and innovating ideas. I'm a really good visionary. I'm an awful executor and implementer, unless I'm put to the mat. So I recognize that. I tell my clients this is, I'm really good at the vision. These other things I can hold you accountable to, but I'm going to show you how I outsource a lot of those pieces. Because if I can work, I optimally work in bursts. So I will work from 7 to 9, take a break. Work from 9:30 to lunch, take a break. Work from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, take a break. And then work from 3:30 to 6, take a break. Whatever I need, and then if I have calls in the evening, whatever is needed. But I like controlling the usage of my energy and the usage of my time. So one of the things that dawned on me, I'm driving an hour one way to get to my office. That's just frustrating, stressful, and unnecessary in today's virtual world. So I gave up my office. So now I work from home. I check in with my staff every day. We do meetings. And the craziest thing is, since we've made that shift about 3 or 4 weeks ago, so this is new, our productivity is more than tripled.
It's funny how that works.
It is. 10 years ago, I said, no way, that's just bull. No, it's real. And it shocks me. But when people are in an environment they're happy in, doing things that they love to do, working optimally, you're going to get a whole lot more out of them. Because studies show the average American worker, people are probably going to cringe when they hear this, only work for you about 4 or 5 hours a day, but they bill you for 8 in your office. They're on Facebook, they're socializing, they're distracting other people. So if you can get 7 great hours of work, solid things that are productive and profitable, you're further ahead than your competition who's everybody's got to be there on time. Everybody's got to go in their cubicle. Everybody, that drone mentality. And I had it. So now it's really about putting my staff in a spot where they're productive, putting me in a spot where I'm productive to get more done.
Well said. So what's next for Todd, future plans and everything that you got going on? What do you got on the docket in the future?
I got a couple of early keynote speeches around mid-Michigan that I'm excited about. And I'm working on my second book on my journey of entrepreneurship. That's it's been a crazy thing. It's been a 3-year project so far. My first book on how to find a job out of school, I did it in 30 days. But when I have to really unpeel the onion and get into some uncomfortable stories, it takes a whole lot more. So yeah, it's gonna be a good year in 2019. I've got a couple of spots that have opened up. I'm gonna be adding some new clients hopefully, and so I'm really excited about what 2019 looks like. And I think that there still is a massive world of abundance for entrepreneurship going forward for the foreseeable future, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Well, we're definitely excited to watch your continued growth. Definitely excited to see that second book come out. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, sharing your journey, providing actionable advice for our listeners, those business owners. But before we let you go, give our listeners one final parting piece of advice to help them get to the next level in their pursuit of ultimate freedom.
I would say that the biggest thing you want to do is, if you're not getting what you want, you're not getting where you want as an entrepreneur, instead of pointing all the fingers at the outside world, take a look at yourself in the mirror. So if you're not making the kind of money, why is that? Is it because you're not billing enough from a revenue standpoint? Or are you not charging enough? Or are your costs too high? So there's a lot of different things you can look at. So I always tell my entrepreneurs, focus on margin over revenue. And ultimately, start with the end in mind. Where do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to have in 5 years? And what kind of life do you want to have in 3 years? I mean, everything changes so fast now. And don't settle for the life that someone else wants you to live. You got to have the life you want to live. And then that makes you a better leader, makes you a better parent, makes you a better partner. Focus on what's most important to you on the inside so you can have it on the outside.
Well said. Todd Palmer, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to impart some of your knowledge, wisdom, and enthusiasm to our community. Hopefully this helps everyone out there get one step closer to achieving that ultimate freedom in their business and in life. But before we sign off, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you?
Well, I'd like to make an offer to your listeners. Anybody who's heard me today and enjoyed what we talked about and wants to have a conversation, I'm willing to give 30 minutes of my time for free to talk about your mindset, talk about your business, talk about your if you want to talk about your struggles, like some of the struggles I shared with you. 30 minutes free. You just have to go to extraordinaryadvisors.com, fill out the contact section. We'll get you on my calendar to have that conversation, because it's my gift to your audience because of so many people through the course of my life who've given me things. So for me, it's a wonderful opportunity to pay it forward with the young people and the entrepreneurs I talk with, but also it's a payback to all the people who've helped me. So everybody wins. So anybody who wants 30 minutes, fill out the contact form at extraordinaryadvisors.com and we'll get you on my calendar.
Awesome, Todd. Really appreciate it. Guys, go there. Take advantage of the opportunity. You never know what might happen in those 30 minutes. extraordinaryadvisors.com. Go there. If you forget about it, go to paulmaskill.com. It'll be in the show notes. Todd, thanks so much again for coming on the show today and really inspiring and educating us on what you got going on.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you, sir. Everyone else out there, if you did enjoy the episode and you're not subscribed, just do yourself and myself a super quick favor. Hit that subscribe button on your phone, set it and forget it. All the shows will come right to you. You never have to look for them again. Thank you so much to everyone who does do this. It helps me know that you're listening, so I can keep putting on the show for you and bringing on great guests like Todd. But until next time, remember, what got you here won't get you there. Get started and make it happen.
Thanks a lot for listening to this episode of the Business Owner's Freedom Formula Show with your host, Paul Maskill. Go online, paulmaskill.com, for more great content and information. On Facebook.com/Business Freedom Formula, and you can tweet Paul anytime at Paul Maskill. We'll catch you next time on the Business Owner's Freedom Formula Show.